What happens when the heart of the family stops beating? When the one person who kept everyone together is no longer there to do it? Welcome to Movie Bites, where we bring you the stories that shaped us, moved us, and stayed with us long after the credits rolled. Today, we're revisiting Soul Food. Not just a film, but a reflection of our own families, our own struggles, and the love we sometimes take for granted. We all remember those Sunday dinners, the warmth of Big Mama's kitchen, the smell of greens and cornbread filling the air, the laughter, the life. But we also remember what happened when she was gone. The silence, the distance. The painful truth that without the glue, everything starts to fall apart. Ahmad, played by 13-year-old Brandon Hammond in Soul Food, 1997, was more than just a kid caught in the middle of family drama. He was the heart and soul of the story. The son of Maxine and Kenny, Ahmad was wise beyond his years, seeing the family's struggles with a clarity the adults seemed to lack. He idolized Big Mama and understood better than anyone how important it was to keep the family together. And when things started falling apart after her passing, he refused to sit back and watch. His plan to reunite the family around the dinner table was a last-ditch effort to remind them what truly mattered. Brandon Hammond's performance was nothing short of brilliant. He carried so much emotion in his narration, making the audience feel every ounce of love, heartbreak, and hope in Ahmad's words. It was one of the best child performances of the 90s, and at the time, it seemed like he was on his way to an amazing career. He had already made waves with roles in Menace to Society, 1993, and The Fan, 1996, and even landed a spot on The West Wing. He was winning awards, proving he had the talent to be one of Hollywood's greats. But then, it just didn't happen. As he got older, his career slowly faded instead of skyrocketing like it should have. It's honestly heartbreaking. Here was a kid who had everything: talent, charisma, and a resume full of strong performances, and yet Hollywood didn't seem to know what to do with him. He deserved so much more. Now 41, Brandon has found a different path as a filmmaker, writing and directing short films. He may not be in front of the camera as much anymore, but his creativity is still alive. Still, it's hard not to wonder what could have been. He should have had the kind of career that kept him in the spotlight, but no matter what, he'll always be remembered as Ahmad, the boy who reminded us all about the power of family. Big Mama Jo, played by Irma Dolores Player Hall, was the heart of the Joseph family in Soul Food, 1997. She wasn't just a grandmother, she was the glue that held everyone together. No matter what drama was unfolding, no matter who wasn't getting along, Big Mama always had a way of bringing people back to the table, both literally and figuratively. She believed that food could heal, that a home-cooked meal could fix wounds that words couldn't. And if love had a flavor, it was whatever Big Mama was cooking. She had 3 daughters, Teri, Maxine, and Bird, each strong in their own way, but she was the strongest of them all. She didn't play favorites. She didn't take sides. She just wanted her family to be happy, to love each other the way she loved them. And she loved them fiercely. But behind her warmth, there was a struggle. Diabetes was taking a toll on her body, but she didn't like to make a fuss. She kept pushing through, making sure Sunday dinners never stopped. Until one day, they did. When Big Mama passed after surgery complications, the family unraveled. The fights got worse, the distance grew. Without her, everything felt different. It was only then that they truly understood she wasn't just the one who cooked, she was the one who kept them whole. But even in her absence, she still found a way to take care of her family. The money she had saved for them, stashed away in the old TV that Uncle Pete never stopped watching, was a reminder of who she was. She always thought ahead, always put her family first, even when they didn't realize it. Irma Dolores Player Hall brought Big Mama to life in a way that felt real, like someone you knew, someone you loved. Before Soul Food, she had already built a legacy with films like Coolie High, 1975, and A Family Thing, 1996, and she had been a familiar face on TV since the early 70s. Now 89, her presence in Hollywood is legendary. But no matter how many roles she's played, for so many of us, she will always be Big Mama, the woman who cooked with love, led with wisdom, and showed us all what family truly means. Maxine, played by 33-year-old Vivica A. Fox in Soul Food, 1997, was the second-born daughter of the Joseph family. She was strong, loving, and never afraid to speak her mind, especially when it came to her older sister, Teri, Vanessa Williams. Their tension ran deep, and a big reason for that? Maxine married Kenny, Jeffrey D. Sams, the man Teri had first. That history made things messy, and Teri's envy toward Maxine was always lingering beneath the surface. But Maxine wasn't about drama. She was about family. She and Kenny had built a solid, loving home with their son, Ahmad, Brandon Hammond, and their daughter. Later in the movie, she gives birth to another child, further solidifying her role as the nurturing heart of the Joseph family. She deeply loved and respected Kenny, leaning on him as a true partner while also standing strong on her own. Big Mama always said Maxine was the strongest one in the family, and she lived up to that. After Big Mama's passing, when Teri wanted to sell the family house, Maxine refused to let that happen. To her, the house was more than just property. It was the heart of their family, filled with memories and love. She also stood firm against the idea of sending Uncle Pete, John M. Watson Sr., to a mental facility, making sure he stayed where he belonged, surrounded by family. At the time, Vivica A. Fox was on the rise in Hollywood, and Soul Food gave her a role that showed her warmth, strength, and depth. Now 60, she's remained a powerhouse in the industry. But for those who grew up on Soul Food, she'll always be Maxine, the one who held it down, kept the family together, and never let love take a backseat. Teri, played by 34-year-old Vanessa Williams in Soul Food, 1997, was the oldest of the three Joseph sisters. A highly successful lawyer, she was always about business, straightforward, no nonsense, and focused on her career. She had money, power, and control, often stepping in as the financial backbone of the family. She even helped fund Bird's wedding, though she never let anyone forget it. Teri was married to Miles, but their marriage was far from happy. While she was dedicated to her work, Miles wanted to chase his dream of being a musician, something Teri never truly supported. She saw his music as unrealistic, and that tension only added to their growing disconnect. Their marriage lacked warmth, and it was clear that despite their success on paper, they weren't in a good place emotionally. One of the biggest sources of tension in Teri's life was her relationship with her sister, Maxine. Teri was envious of Maxine, not just because she had a happy, stable marriage with Kenny, the man Teri once dated, but also because Maxine had a strong bond with the family that Teri never quite fit into. That resentment played out in their constant clashes, with Teri often feeling unappreciated despite all she did for the family. After Big Mama passed, Teri wanted to sell the family house, seeing it as just another asset rather than a home filled with memories. But her sisters, especially Maxine, weren't having it, which only deepened the rift between them. Teri's tough exterior made her seem cold at times, but deep down she just struggled to connect in the same way her sisters did. At the time, Vanessa Williams was already a household name, known for her roles in Eraser, 1996, alongside Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now 61, she's continued to shine in film and television, with standout roles in Ugly Betty and Desperate Housewives. But for those who grew up on Soul Food, she'll always be Teri, the strong, ambitious, and sometimes misunderstood sister who carried a lot on her shoulders. Bird, played by 27-year-old Nia Long in Soul Food, 1997, was the youngest of the three Joseph sisters. Fiery, stylish, and full of personality, she worked as a hairdresser and had a way of making sure things went her way. Her nickname Bird came from Big Mama, who said she was always small and fast, just like a little bird. Bird was married to Mekhi Phifer, a man she deeply loved and wanted the best for. But sometimes, her need to fix things got in the way of letting him stand on his own as a man. A perfect example? When Lem struggled to find a job, she secretly reached out to her ex to pull some strings and get him hired. She meant well, but when Lem found out, it was a blow to his pride, leading to one of their biggest arguments. Despite her flaws, Bird had a big heart and always put family first. She was fun, full of life, and determined to see her loved ones succeed, sometimes to a fault. At the time, Nia Long was already a rising star, known for Friday and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. But Soul Food showed a different side of her, witty, passionate, and unapologetically real. Now 54, she's cemented her place as one of Hollywood's most respected actresses. But for those who grew up on soul food, she'll always be Bird, the baby sister with a sharp tongue, a big heart, and a love for family that never wavered. Uncle Pete, played by John M. Watson Sr. in Soul Food, 1997, was Big Mama's brother, and in many ways, a mystery within the Joseph household. For nearly a decade, he never stepped foot outside his room, never joined the family for Sunday dinners, and barely interacted with anyone. He just sat there, locked away, watching television. No one knew exactly why he withdrew, but they accepted it. His isolation made him almost ghost-like. Everyone knew he was there, but he was barely part of the family's everyday life. Still, they never abandoned him. They made sure he was fed, checked in on him, and let him exist in his own world without forcing him to change. But despite his silence, Uncle Pete was still part of the foundation of the family, a piece of history that refused to fade. Then, in the end, something unexpected happened. He finally emerged. It was subtle but powerful. He wasn't some forgotten relic of the past. He was still there, still part of the family, and when the suggestion came to send him to a mental facility, Maxine refused. Uncle Pete wasn't leaving. He had a place in that house, in that family, no matter how much time had passed. John M. Watson Sr. brought incredible depth to a role with almost no dialogue. A talented actor and musician, he also appeared in Groundhog Day, 1993, and The Fugitive. He passed away in 2006 at the age of 69, but his portrayal of Uncle Pete remains unforgettable. A quiet but powerful reminder that family never leaves anyone behind. Kenny, played by 31-year-old Jeffrey D. Sams in Soul Food, 1997, was the kind of man every family needed. Steady, responsible, and always willing to do what was right. He was a devoted husband to Maxine and a loving father to Ahmad, Kelly, and their newborn. While others in the family were dealing with relationship struggles, financial hardships, and personal battles, Kenny stood firm. He wasn't flashy, and he didn't need to be. He provided for his family, not just financially, but emotionally, always making sure they had what they needed. Unlike some of the other men in the family, Kenny never ran from responsibility. He embraced it. He had a steady job, knew how to manage his household, and always kept his priorities straight. But that didn't mean he lacked compassion. When Lem struggled to find work as a convicted felon, Kenny didn't hesitate to help. He saw the effort Lem was making, the frustration of wanting to do right, but constantly hitting dead ends, and instead of looking down on him, he quietly stepped up. Lending Lem money wasn't about charity, it was about brotherhood, about understanding what it meant to support family when they needed it most. At the time, Jeffrey D. Sams was a familiar face in 90s films, appearing in Fly By Night, 1993, and Rose Hill, 1997, the same year he starred in Soul Food. He also found success on television, starring in the drama series Cupid, 1998 to 1999. Though he hasn't been as active in recent years, now at 58, his role as Kenny remains one of his most memorable. A portrayal of a man who kept his family together through love, loyalty, and quiet strength. Miles, played by 34-year-old Michael Beach in Soul Food, 1997, was a man caught between two worlds, success and passion. As a lawyer, he had financial security and a respectable career, but deep down, his heart was always in music. A gifted musician, Miles wanted more than just stability. He wanted to follow his dreams. So when he decided to quit law and pursue music full-time, he expected support from his wife Teri. Instead, he got resistance. Teri never truly believed in his music career, and that disconnect drove a wedge between them. She saw his decision as reckless, something that jeopardized their future. But for Miles, it was about more than money. It was about fulfillment. The lack of support from his own wife, combined with the coldness in their already strained marriage, pushed him further away. That distance led him straight into the arms of Faith, Teri's own cousin. Their affair was one of the most explosive moments in the film, not just because of the betrayal itself, but because it exposed just how broken his marriage with Teri had become. It wasn't just about lust. It was about Miles finding warmth, encouragement, and excitement, things he no longer felt with Teri. But in doing so, he destroyed any chance of repairing their already fragile relationship. At the time, Michael Beach was already an established actor, Known for roles in One False Move, 1992, and Waiting to Exhale, 1995, where he played another controversial husband who left his wife for another woman. He later gained even more recognition in television, starring as Monty Parker on Third Watch and appearing in Sons of Anarchy and Dahmer Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story. Now 61, Michael Beach remains a steady presence in Hollywood, continuing to take on powerful roles. But for soul food fans, he'll always be Miles, the talented musician who risked it all for his dream, but in the process, lost everything. Cousin Faith, played by 31-year-old Gina Rivera in Soul Food, 1997, was the kind of relative you knew was bad news. But family is family. She was Big Mama's niece, taken in after her mother passed. But despite that second chance, trouble followed her everywhere. Faith had a way of walking into a room and turning everything upside down. She was beautiful, confident, and knew how to move, literally. A trained dancer, she had talent, but instead of pursuing a professional career, she became a stripper. She lived fast, made reckless choices, and had no problem bending the rules when it suited her. She even ran up Mama's credit, adding financial betrayal to the long list of reasons no one trusted her. But the worst thing she did? Sleeping with Miles, Teri's husband. That was the ultimate betrayal, proving that no line was too sacred for her to cross. And just like that, the little trust she had left with the family was gone. Wherever Faith went, chaos followed, and when she was around, something bad was bound to happen. At the time, Gina Rivera was already making a name for herself in Hollywood. Aside from Soul Food, she appeared in Showgirls, 1995, and Saint Sinner, 2002. On television, she had a standout role as Detective Irene Daniels in The Closer, 2005 to 2009. Now 58, she remains a talented actress, but for many, she'll always be remembered as Cousin Faith, the beautiful disaster who turned the Joseph family upside down. Lem, played by 23-year-old Mekhi Phifer in Soul Food 1997, was a man trying to outrun his past, but constantly running into walls. Fresh out of jail, he was determined to turn his life around, but the world wasn't making it easy. As a convicted felon, finding a steady job was nearly impossible, no matter how hard he tried. Every door seemed to slam in his face, and the frustration of it all weighed on him. He didn't like his situation. He hated it. But the one bright spot in his life? Bird. Marrying Bird gave him something he never really had before. A family, stability, a chance at something real. But even with her love and support, things weren't smooth. His pride clashed with his reality, and when Bird went behind his back to ask her ex to help him get a job, it hit him where it hurt. He wanted to be the provider, the man of the house. But society wasn't giving him that opportunity. Lem had a dark past, but he wasn't that man anymore. He was trying, fighting, to be better. But between his struggles, his temper, and his need to prove himself, he found himself caught in a cycle that was hard to break. At the time, Mekhi Phifer was a rising star, later making a name for himself in Paid in Full, 2002, and Honey, 2003, as well as 8 Mile, 2002, and ER. Now 50, he's had a long and steady career, but for many, he'll always be Lem, the man who wanted more but had to fight for every bit of it. Simuel, played by Mel Jackson, was the kind of ex who just wouldn't let go. He was rich, smooth, and always had a way with words. But underneath it all, he was just a man who couldn't stand the fact that Bird had moved on. He hated seeing her with Lem, and instead of respecting her marriage, he kept finding ways to creep back into her life. And the worst part? He knew exactly how to play his cards. When Bird was desperate to help Lem get a job, Simuel saw his chance. He made it seem like he was doing her a favor, pulling strings to get Lem hired, but deep down, it was about control. He wanted Bird to owe him, to remember what life could have been like with him instead. Cunning and calculated, he used his wealth as leverage, always lingering, always waiting for an opening. Mel Jackson played Simuel with just the right mix of charm and arrogance, making him a character you loved to hate. Back then, he was 27 and seemed poised for a long career in Hollywood. He had a strong presence, a smooth delivery, and leading man potential. But for some reason, his career took a tragic downfall. Many say he refused to bend to the rules of Hollywood, and because of that, they phased him out. Now 54, he's far from the spotlight, reportedly working at McDonald's these days. It's a sharp contrast from the man who once played the wealthy, confident Simuel, but for some, he'll always be remembered as the ex who just couldn't let go. Reverend Williams, played by 65-year-old Carl Wright in Soul Food, 1997, was more than just a guest at the Joseph family's Sunday dinners. He was part of the tradition. He never missed a meal, always arriving with an appetite that could put anyone to shame. If there had ever been an eating contest, there's no doubt he would have taken the crown. But while he loved to eat, he also knew how to feed the soul. His sermons weren't just words, they were reminders of what really mattered: faith, family, and unity. Even when tensions ran high, Reverend Williams had a way of bringing everyone back together. Whether it was a heartfelt prayer before a meal or a message filled with wisdom, he was a constant reminder of the values Big Mama held dear. Beyond the pulpit, Reverend Williams was the kind of elder who carried wisdom in his presence. He didn't need to say much, just being there was enough to make the family feel whole. His laughter, his stories, and his love for good food made him unforgettable. Carl Wright, the man behind the role, had a career filled with memorable performances, appearing in films like Barbershop, 2002, and Big Mama's House, 2000. Sadly, he passed away in 2007 at 75, but his legacy lives on. For soul food fans, he'll always be the Reverend who knew how to bring people together, both at the table and in spirit. And that's why soul food still resonates today. It's more than a movie. It's a reminder to cherish our loved ones, mend broken bonds, and keep family traditions alive. Because at the end of the day, family isn't perfect, but it's worth fighting for. So take a moment. Call that relative you haven't spoken to in a while. Plan that family dinner. Hold on to the people who matter before it's too late. Because once the glue is gone, some things may never be the same. Thanks for joining us on Movie Bites. Until next time, keep the love strong, the memories close, and remember, the best stories aren't just the ones on screen, but the ones we live every day.